Things in the Rasmus Andersson trade rumor saga just got even crazier as one insider has dropped a major trade update, and it includes an additional player to just Razz. Nazem Kadri finds his way back into the rumor mill in a huge package that could send Naz and Razz to the Dallas Stars for Jason Robertson plus. We're going to get into all that and more in this video, but first I want to welcome you to Flames Digest. I'm Mark Griffith. If you're new around here and you love the Flames, make sure you subscribe so you can stay up to date on all the latest news, updates, reports, and rumors revolving around your Calgary Flames. We would love to welcome you to the Flames Digest family. Before we get into yet another trade rumor video, I know, trust me, we need to talk about last night's game because the Flames, their preseason conquest continued last night as they obviously traveled over to BC. They played in Abbotsford against the Canucks. They didn't exactly ice, the best lineup possible, but they did end up losing this one 3-1 to the Canucks. No surprise there. And honestly, there were a lot of good things to take away from this game. I mean, the one person who did score, I don't know why this is all I could really find of it, but Connor Zary got the lone goal for the Flames in this one. I believe it's actually his birthday today, so happy birthday, Connor. But yeah, there were some good performances. Honestly, Prosvetov, however you want to pronounce it, he looked really good. I know 3-1 doesn't exactly think, oh wow, your goalie played really well. He was by and far the best player for the Flames last night. Zary was really good, of course, with that goal. And honestly, there was one guy who kind of stood out as not the best, and I hate to say it, but Jeremy Poirier, I just don't think he's going to make the NHL at anytime soon. I know he was pretty good for the Wranglers last year, got a lot of assists, but we have just way more better offensive defensemen in the system, and I hate to say it, but I just really don't envision a time for him coming up to the Flames at any point here. That's kind of the big key takeaways from last night's game. A few days break now for the Flames before I believe they play Winnipeg next in the preseason, but that's not what got even crazier. Of course, what got crazier is the trade rumors. And I was tempted to, name the chapter of this video, Don't Hate Me or something. I know yesterday's video's title was obviously about Rasmus Andersson trade rumors, but it got even bigger as Jeff Merrick, who used to be one of the co-hosts of the 32 Thoughts podcast. So he said Dallas's name is going to be attached to Kadri again. It's going to be attached to Rasmus Andersson again. This, of course, coming from the sheet, his new gig. So not only are we having Rasmus Andersson linked once again to the Stars, but we have Kadri linked to the Stars once again. And a lot of people question the credibility of Merrick. Is he a real insider? He was carried by Friedman, all of that stuff. He probably knows a little bit more of what's going on than, an average Joe like you or me. So it's interesting having both of these guys linked to Dallas again, because look at Dallas. They're a team who they just haven't been able to get kind of past that final hurdle in the way. They haven't been able to get back to the Stanley Cup final since 2020. And they have all the right pieces you'd think, but they need to add a little bit more. Could adding Kadri and Andersson obviously be a big part of that? Now, what one person is saying is kind of in regards to the cap situation. A lot of people are saying, look, Dallas has nothing in terms of cap, but if they aren't trading away for futures or they aren't trading away futures and they're just trading away, roster players, could it look something like this? So the Hockey Whisperer here says, everybody in the comments talking about cap space, but Andersson at 4.55 and Kadri at 7 equals 11.55. Trade that for Robertson at 7.8 and Lyubushkin for 3.25. That equals 11.05. Hope this helps. And while the math does math here, the one big thing is that, yes, that's Andersson's current contract. Are you going to be able to sign him after you trade for him? And look, I'm not saying I'm against this trade happening at all. Bringing in Jason Robertson would be fantastic. I love Kadri, but he is getting up there in age. And hey, if he wants to go help the Stars try and beat the Oilers, I'm down. And then Lyubushkin wouldn't be the worst thing the Flames need. The Flames have a lot of offensive defensemen in the system. I know they just have a lot of defensemen, period. But bringing in Lyubushkin, it really isn't too bad at all either. So I don't hate this if it's, a 2 for 2 here. I would hope there'd be a little bit more pieces that it seems like that's a lot for the Flames to give up. But then again, Robertson is Robertson. So either way, that right there, totally interesting. We could talk about this 2 for 2 deal or adding, some pieces to make it exactly 50-50 even. And it could be very interesting. I know there's a lot of, parts at play in this one, but overall, we could talk about that one a lot. Now, another thing kind of going along with this is is Rasmus Andersson going to sign opposed to being traded? And that's what we talked about more so in yesterday's video from that Pierre LeBrun, I guess, update. But Jim Parsons here writes, so risky offer from Flames could convince Andersson to re-sign. So re-sign, not trade. So in an interesting turn of events, LeBrun reported on TSN Insider Trading on Tuesday that Andersson is still a likely trade candidate ahead of the trade deadline. At the same time, the door's not entirely closed to an extension with the Flames. I'm not going to go over this whole article, just the juicy pieces we need. So unless he's traded and signs first, or there is a sign and trade involved in his move elsewhere, the best Andersson can do on the open market is a 7-year contract with a different team. That leaves Calgary as the club that can give him the 8th year it sounds like he might be looking for. There's risk for the Flames, however, given his age and the fact that an 8-year deal would take Andersson into his mid-30s. So this isn't a risky deal for Andersson. It's a risky deal for the Flames. Do you want to give an older guy 8 years, a guy who is taking a roster spot away from some of your younger guys, a guy who's going to ask for a boatload of money, but a guy who has been a very reliable guy, loves the city, loves the organization, and brings good vibes and stare downs? There's pros and cons, of course. So has this been discussed between the two sides? Is Andersson open to that kind of deal if Calgary is willing to offer him that long of a term? That's where it gets interesting, of course. So the Flames would be taking a huge risk, of course. Andersson said in a recent interview, I've grown up in the city and I've loved every second of it. Now it's the business side of it. Is it smart of me to re-sign now after last season? I don't know. I just got to come out of the gates hot and worry about myself. So he definitely wants to play for that next contract, whether that's, in a Flames uniform or another. But a team wouldn't give up that much for Andersson if he's not going to sign there, which puts Calgary in a bind, of course. In other words, Andersson doesn't sound like he's going to sign during this season. That would mean the Flames would have to feel confident in both an 8-year deal and the fact that Andersson would be open to signing it after the trade deadline. That's a gamble, one that could backfire if the Flames keep him. He elects not to stay and walks away for no return on July 1st. And in my mind, that shouldn't even be an option. But it is a scary option, I guess, a scary possibility we can say that we're obviously going to try to avoid at all costs. So back to trading him, I guess, to the Stars then, since he's being linked there as well as Kadri. Let's see what more people are saying. So one person has a pretty humorous response. They say, take them both, please, with that meme from the second season of Squid Game there of people just celebrating. Yeah, take them both. Go for it. Another person kind of plays, that side I spoke about earlier. So they said, Merrick isn't an insider. Maybe some assume he is because he had a podcast with Freeman. He comes up with proposals that he thinks are interesting if you listen to 32 Thoughts. Friedman shut him down repeatedly for years. And sure, you can say that. I'm not saying it's not valid to say that. You can say that about every insider, every person in the media when it comes to hockey. They're just going to bring up what is interesting, of course. Another person says, definitely not Kadri, please, which is fair because of how good he has been for the Flames and how much he loves being here. And then Gurpal Singh, we all know him. He said a Kadri and Andersson blockbuster would feed families. The hockey world would be in a frenzy if that happened. Both Kadri and Andersson in a deal, especially to Dallas, would be nuts. Another person here says Andersson to Dallas, Kadri to Carolina. Interesting. Both teams need that extra piece to get over the hump and finally get back into the final. Another person says Kadri and Rasmus blockbuster with the eyes emojis. Another person says how are they both being linked to Dallas? And then one final Flames fan here says do it. Do it. So a lot of people would like to see this kind of trade happen. I know most of us love Kadri. I know a lot of us love Andersson as well. But at the end of the day, the business side of the deal, it could make sense to deliver them both to the Lone Star State. Everything is bigger in Texas, of course. Now let's get into the comment of the day to wrap up this video, as we love to do here on the channel. It comes from yesterday's video, which was kind of about Raz, but also touched on some of the preseason stuff and some of the guys that could be on the roster. And Flames_fan1 here said, I don't know why Rory Cairns isn't on the team. This guy's great. He has 3 points in 2 preseason games, so already looks great. But even last year, he had 4 points in 5 NHL games and looks so good, not to mention how he's been dominating the NHL. Won't be surprised he makes the team this year. I'm assuming you meant to say dominating the AHL. But yeah, he's really good. He will absolutely get a look at the NHL level this season like he did last year. And hopefully it's obviously for a longer stint this time. I'm just not too sure if he makes the team out of the gate, but I am not saying he does not deserve it. I'm so glad we have him obviously in the pipeline. He could definitely be at the NHL level for a longer time sooner than later. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please subscribe to what you saw here today and have a wonderful rest of your day.